and we'll edit it out.
Well, I kind of don't want to talk about, like, I don't know. Well, just, you know what? At this point, I don't care. If it helps somebody, I'm here to help.
Yeah, if we get there. Okay, cool.
Okay,
All right, let me kick it off. We'll go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Vetivier podcast. Vetivier, your journey home. We're back in our series interviewing and getting to know the Vetivier professionals that have made this community what it is. And it's my pleasure to bring to you today Alexis Brown, coming to us straight from Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
I got it. I love it. Okay. So, Alexis, you have been with us for a long time. You're one of the few realtors that went through testing and just you come in and you're like, look, it's not about business for me. It's about serving a community. It's about something greater than myself. And that is a theme I have found in your life, getting to know you over the time and serving in this organization together. But this interview is more about you. I want people to be able to meet you, to know who you are, to pick up the phone when they talk to you, be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I already know her. She's amazing. You for a long time had a red car that you called Juicy, and I had great. You were a get up and go. In fact, I remember being on a call with you one time. You're like, I'm in home goods store. What do you need? I was like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm staging a house, and like you literally had this car full of pillows and other things in the back because you were staging this car. Like you go all out for people. You live life very full. And I think people need to know that about you. There's so much more we can talk about, but introduce yourself. Give me some of the background there. Let's let the listeners understand, who is Alexis Brown.
Well, I am Alexis. Hello. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. And yes, Juicy, that's my girl. So Juicy is a red 2019 Ford Flex. Juicy is now parked and posted. But the Flex is my dream car, truly, truly. And so Juicy was my Juicy Views, and she was perfect too because she was long enough for staging. Okay, staging stuff. So that's funny that you remember that, Nathan. But who am I? I'm Alexis Brown. I am a real estate agent out of Memphis, Tennessee, but I am not from Memphis, even though yes, I'm repping that back there. Memphis. Because I'm almost a local is what I tell people. I've been here for about 8 years. What brought us to this area is, believe it or not, there's a Navy base. I know, crazy, because you're like, what? A Navy base in Tennessee?
Yeah.
There's a Navy base because we're on the river. No, it has nothing to do with that. No, but it's an admin Navy base. And my husband is now retired Navy, and we PCS'd here in 2017 from Sasebo, Japan. I'm originally from sunny San Diego. I am truly a Cali girl at heart. Yes, tacos, the beach, cerveza, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where my heart lies. And as far as professionally, pretty much all my clients are military PCSing in and out of the base, NSA Mid-South, but we refer to that as Millington. And I serve the entire Mid-South area. So, I mean, I don't know, Nathan, does that kind of cover it there a little bit? Or
I mean, that covers a lot. Let's go into some other details, some fun things that I've learned about Alexis. Like you have a unique collection because of your time spent stationed in Japan with your husband. What kind of collection did you bring back with you?
Everything. Okay, so if you've been stationed overseas, y'all know about those base bazaars. So I do have Japanese furniture, stepped onto, little bar, okay, wooden things. But I also love Fukagawa. What is Fukagawa? It is Japanese porcelain. So we were first stationed in Yoko, which is Kanto Plain near Yokohama in Tokyo. And then the last tour was in Sasebo near Nagasaki, Fukuoka, and also Arita, which is home of Japanese porcelain. Okay, it is like what they're known for. The same way Memphis is known for barbecue, Arita is known for Japanese porcelain. So I love Fukagawa, and I have a very extensive collection. It's downstairs because obviously up here is just lips. Okay, this is like the lip room. Okay, but downstairs in the actual house, the living area, is where I have all my Fukagawa. Just so blessed to have had that opportunity to live like 7 years overseas, and I did a lot of shopping. Let me just tell you this: while I do spend time staging homes, I don't need to stage my home. No, my home is professionally and forever will it be Japanese themed. Yes, so there's that.
That's amazing. That is Yeah, you've shared a couple of pictures here and there. I've seen some of the stuff. It's impressive, like the things you've collected and brought home.
Oh, I also
Let's
have
talk
some
about.
Japanese. I don't mean to cut you off, Jason, but I got to tell you
No,
about
you're right.
my grenades, my deactivated grenades. I do have grenades in my house, but they're deactivated. Okay. So they're World War II Japanese issued hand grenades that the Japanese government gave out to its citizens ahead of our
Okay.
occupation, the U.S. occupation. And
Mhm.
basically, if the Americans came knocking at your door, they were supposed to pull the trigger and do some stuff. Well, a girlfriend of mine, her husband was XO at the ammo base, and I was able to go out there and dig through the mud and dig up these deactivated World War II grenades, and I have about 10 of them. So don't
Wow.
try me because I am literally the bomb. Deactivated.
Deactivated.
Yeah.
I I did not. Okay, all right. There's some good ones. Now, okay, so how did you start in real estate then? Because I
Oh,
mean, you're overseas, you can't do real estate. You get home, you get back to the
mm.
U.S., you're like, what am I doing now?
Okay. Well, how I got started in real estate is my real estate agent.
Okay.
So we moved here. We didn't buy sight unseen at the time. It just wasn't something my husband was interested in. So we were at the Navy Lodge, the on base lodging accommodation that a lot of military families, when you're PCSing Oconus, will find yourself. Anyway, so we get into the car. And if you haven't picked up, I do have the gift of gab. And I was sitting shotgun with my real estate agent, and we just get to talking. He said, Alexis, you would be wonderful in real estate. That's what happened. Literally.
That's it. That's it.
That is it. That is it. I said, you know what? That's fabulous. Let me sign up. And here I am 8 years later.
That's awesome. Now,
That's
it
what
has not
happened.
been a slow 8 years either, because you've been
Yeah.
very productive in
Yes.
how you do things and run business. I think
Yeah.
one of the cool things about that I've come to learn about you is that you can talk to anybody, and you talk
Mhm.
really nice. I mean, you really connect in a nice way, but
Mm.
you have this ability to kind of help people see things through what they want in the marketplace. Like if they're just like, Alexis, I want 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. You're like, that's not where we're stopping. Let's keep having a conversation. And you
Right.
get to know people better at a deeper level. What are some of the ways you've been able to identify that and help people PCS sight unseen, come into the marketplace and help them understand where they're moving to? Like, I'd like to know more about that.
Well, good question. Kind of how I do that is getting to know my clients through how my journey as a military spouse. Nathan, I have to
Mhm.
blow my nose.
Oh, all
Sorry.
right.
I know, right? I have the sniffles. I'm
That's
sorry.
all
This is
good.
going to have to be edited.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. Sorry. Hold on. I'll be right back. Oh, my goodness. Person touching my nose. Like, okay, anyway.
You're good. You're
All
good.
right. So I'm back. So um about how do I connect and get to know people is using my own experience as a military spouse, really every 2 to 3 years having to move and reinvent myself.
Mm,
So when in just life experiences I've had throughout my lengthy time here on earth, okay? So I try to I'm used to being put in situations where I have to at times make people feel comfortable, right, with me, right? Because again, as a military spouse, I'm constantly having to reinvent myself every 2 to 3 years when we move. And I
mm,
don't mean like, oh, you're starting out fake. It's just I have to put myself out there. I am a people person naturally, right? I like to talk and get to know people. So I'm just really good at I'm comfortable. I don't want to say I'm really good. I'm just comfortable in that element. And also I'm able to identify with my clientele because I know exactly what it's like to be in their shoes. While
mhm.
I've never worn the uniform a day in my life, I do want to know what it's like to be a spouse in a military family, relocating to a new area. So
Yeah.
there's that.
How long did you guys serve? Because you and your husband overseas. He Navy
Mhm.
a lot. Like how many years were you guys out in that life until you retired?
Over 20. So my husband's a retired E9 in the
Okay.
Navy, a Master Chief. Was the highest rank enlisted can go.
Hmm.
And 20, 21 years.
21 years.
Yeah,
It took you all over the place. I bet you guys saw a lot.
it did. And I'm going to say we did. We did see a lot. I felt like I saw more when we went overseas, though.
Mm,
That's what I also feel like that's where I grew the most as a person is overseas because I was really far away.
hmm,
When we were stationed in Japan, I mean, I was far away. I didn't have family. I didn't have my close knit of friends, even though you could be stationed stateside half across, halfway across the country or on the other side of the country. But when you're like 17 hours ahead, there's oceans apart. I mean, you can't just hop on a plane and be somewhere or get in a car and drive a day or two. No.
right,
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to visit that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the VA loan and what you do as an agent, right? You're a real estate agent, a realtor, if you will. Uh, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you share with your clients about using their VA home loan benefit when they're trying to buy and you're representing them either as a listing agent, which is starting to grow more, you're listing more homes, but also as a buy side agent. Like, how do you use the VA home loan eligibility to help them get the best deal for what they're looking to do?
Okay, well, explaining the market. It's all about knowing the market. And while I
Mm,
talk about the market before I go into that, also understanding the size of your installation. Now, keep in mind, we just kind of joked about how I'm in Memphis. That isn't exactly a military town, right? It's also like a mid grade city, I think we're called. I don't know, but we're not like a top 10 city. Okay, so we're not very big. So when you're not really near a large installation, understand that you're going to encounter a lot of people unfamiliar with the VA loan, right? It's not like we're in San
yeah.
Diego or Fort Hood areas, or outside of DC, Hampton Roads, Virginia, those areas where there's just big
Hmm.
bases, so people are more familiar. If you're in a market that either has a very small base or else no base at all, you have some pushback. So kind of
Mm,
going in, Nathan, to answer your question, first I have to kind of go in explaining where the vibe is locally for VA loans, you know?
okay. Yeah.
And then leading into the strengths of why a military family should definitely utilize their VA home loan benefit. So, the number one,
Hmm.
I will tell you this, the VA loan is a very strong loan type. There's nothing to be intimidated about. Who you work with truly matters, though.
Yeah.
1000% on the lending side and as an agent, who you work
Yeah.
with definitely matters. Education is key, competence wins. Yeah.
Let's let's talk about that because to be an effective agent,
Mhm.
I think that you have to be able to negotiate and also hold your ground really, really well. Because you're going to get pushback. So I'm considering you as a buy side agent, right? You've got
Correct.
somebody moving to town. You're representing them. You're helping them. You're doing FaceTime videos. You're helping them find homes. You're referencing all that. And now they're like, I want to buy this house. And you start
Mhm.
talking to the listing agent, and they're like, well, we're just not comfortable with the VA home loan. And you're like, that's the wrong thing to say to Alexis Brown. Number one. Number two is like, how are you going to help that agent overcome whatever stigmatism they have about this purchase price or this purchase loan type?
Well, you are talking to the right one right now because in 2021, when we were in multiple offer season, when we were up against,
Hmm.
20 offers, things were just wild across the country, not just here in my market. I
Hmm.
sold 51 buy side VA. And I got in by talking. That is how I got in when my clients were up against 20 offers and we would win. It's confidence and competence. That is truly what wins. Chapter 12 of the VA loan handbook, I had to preach it. I really had to deep dive and understand the product that I was pushing, right? Which is the VA loan.
Yeah.
There are fair housing laws, so I had to kind of be mindful of that when it came to describing too much of my clients who were wanting
Yeah.
the home. However, I had to form a honest, fact-backed relationship with the list agent, and I did that just by talking nonstop, but politely. Agents, if you're listening, it is possible. Drop the egos at the door. Be polite, be confident and competent in the product. So, educating on Chapter 12, which is the minimum property condition requirements, that was a major hitter. It still is. Some people are concerned of taking VA loans because they're worried about appraisal. Sometimes purchasers, meaning purchasers being buyers, are worried. Or sellers, prior active duty or veteran sellers, or currently active, sometimes they're worried for those same reasons. Don't be. Don't be.
Yeah.
If your house is going to go FHA, it's going to go VA just fine. Wink, wink. Okay. So you're not going to have a problem. But it's just understanding the product and really not talking. just out of thin air, I had to come with facts. And those facts were presented to me with a VA loan handbook that I learned right here in Veta VA, Nathan.
Yeah.
Right here at Veta
Yeah.
VA. So here's a plug. If you're out here as an agent listening, please join Veta VA for professionals.
Yeah.
Answer
Yeah.
all questions, though, prior to
Get
joining
all the
Veta.
questions. We are going to talk about that too in a second. But okay, you mentioned chapter 12, and I think that's
Yeah,
important, right? Minimum property requirements,
yeah.
what's required, what's it looking at, and then from what you mentioned, being more in the listing side, so helping
Mhm.
people sell their homes now.
Yes.
What are you looking for when you go into an initial consult and they call you and say, "Hey, Alexis, we're going to move, or we think we're ready to move. Will you come help us list our home?"
Yeah.
You walk on the property. What are some of the first things you're looking for as an agent? Understanding Chapter 12 and the minimum property requirements. What are you
Mhm.
ticking through in your checklist?
Okay. Well, VA loan or not, where I'm looking for wood rot. Okay, yeah, we're in an area that can
Gotcha.
get some wood rot. So we're talking wood
Yeah.
rot, regardless of loan type. You could get hit with wood rot. We're talking. So I'm
Hmm.
looking for that. um, while I am looking for things that could potentially come back as a lender required repair that exists with any loan type, I'm also looking for any issues that could hold you back from getting top dollar for your house. That's
Yeah.
what's most important, right? Not necessarily on the loan product. It's how can you get top dollar for your house? Because when you're on market to sell, even though you might have purchased as a VA buyer, you're looking to attract any and all buyers. You know, for
Hmm.
some, yes, a priority might be for fellow active duty, maybe advertising as an assumption. However, you still want to make sure your house is good to go and solid, because just like how you're looking out for your family, that person coming to buy your home, they're looking out for their family and making sure they get a good deal too. So walking the property, understanding the current market conditions, looking for anything that could potentially hold us back or be a red flag, that can result in a price reduction and or a repair, or a buyer getting cold feet. But that happens inside as well as outside of the home too.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So.
So you mentioned answer all the questions, and so I was going to bring this up too. But you serve in a really unique position for Veta VA for the community as a professional. You run a billet or a squad that we our member approval team.
Hmm.
And some people who have tried to join Veta VA get denied, and they're like, "I don't understand why I can't join the group." And well, to answer all the questions, or if you're a professional, join the professionals group. But you hold that so you have protected the integrity of the group so well by holding members accountable. Where does that come from? Why is it so important to hold that line like you do?
Because I follow the rules. It's a personality trait here. Okay, so it's a personality trait. But also, being a spouse, I have been involved in other Facebook groups, right? So
Mhm.
if you are military affiliate listening to this, then you know most bases have Facebook groups, commands have FRG groups, etc. So just maintaining the integrity of the group, mostly ensuring that individuals who don't have ties to the military aren't trying to come into the group, meaning for Veta VA, we're talking about VA loans. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you aren't eligible for a VA loan, you don't need to join Veta VA. It's not a place to pick up dates. It's not a place for parents who aren't eligible for VA loan. It is for VA loans. So it's active duty, retirees, veterans, and their spouses.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of maintaining that so that way the integrity of the group is maintained. And when our when people seek us out, our members are coming in asking questions, they're able to, sorry about that, they are able to, not be sold something, a sales pitch, or cut through
Yeah.
the fluff. And the people giving back responses are people who have been in their shoes. That's important.
Right. Now,
Hmm.
so we have the Vet VA, the main Vet VA Facebook group, then we have
Yeah.
Vet VA for professionals. Why the distinction from your position? Why do we make a strong distinction between the two groups?
Well, the difference is well, the main group is where, if you're a military family member, you're going to go and look for answers on how to, best effectively utilize the VA home benefit if you have questions while you're buying or selling. The
Mhm.
professional group is where professionals can go, professionals like myself, other agents, lenders, where they can go and get information related to if they have a question maybe about chapter 12 of the VA loan handbook, right? Or if they have a question about how a termite works with a VA loan. But also it's very important that the group doesn't turn into a sales group. Okay. If you're in any sort of group, even if it's not military related, there are sales pitches. I mean, agents, hello, we're guilty of it too, right? As our lenders, you ask a question,
Yep.
hey, I'm thinking about listing my house. Deaf to your inbox, you're going to have 50 agents and they're, rah, 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 come look at me. So a big difference is maintaining that integrity is allowing the group members of the main group not to be solicited. They're not going to be attacked with a sleazy sales approach. Not saying that loan professionals or real estate agents will have a sleazy approach, a sales approach. Not saying that at all. However, in VA, we want to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the group. Just like I spoke about how in 2021, me selling all those houses, talking, getting in the door, using fact-backed information, that is what we're pushing in VA. It's fact-backed information. And myself and other professionals were trained, tried and tested, right? Putting out that sort of information. So I don't know, does that kind of cover it there, Nathan?
I mean, I think it does for me, but I was looking for your position on it, which is clear. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it is a group that has to be. It's not just the rules, but like you said, it's one where we hold the main group has to be held in check so that people joining can ask all sorts of questions and not be made to feel dumb for asking a question. But number two, receive cited and sourced information that is backed by people who have been in their shoes, like you said, but also professionals that have been trained and are held to an accountability standard. And then for the professionals group, it is where you, as a pro who want to serve this community, need to go and ask other pros questions and get better insights faster. So I appreciate that. Really appreciate your perspective. Here's a question I would love to ask you, and some of these I'll just say for the audience, like I'm throwing these at it right away. Like we did not prep these questions, so let me throw this one at you and see how this hits. What's one of the best questions you've been asked by a military member, somebody trying to use their VA home loan benefit when they're interviewing you to represent them?
What do you know about assumptions?
Okay, all right.
Literally,
What do you,
VA loan assumptions. That is something I'm asked frequently and very
yeah.
recently because the market's turned a little bit. So that is a question that's serious that's asked too. So my market is slow. Homes are starting to sit.
Okay.
Yeah. And people want to know, how can we effectively advertise our house quickly? And hey, how does this assumption work? In addition to that, buyers are also asking about assumptions. How do assumptions work? I'm looking for a deal. Everyone wants a deal. Some people, weren't able to capitalize on the market in 2021 and capture a
Mhm.
2% interest rate. However, 3-4 years later, people are PCSing and moving. Who have those rates, and how can they capture those? Like, what do I know about it? How can I help them get in? So yeah,
So give me your 60-second crash course. How are these assumptions working in Memphis? How do they work just as a general from your perspective?
they're working great. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that. They're great. Okay,
Okay.
I have no complaints. I'm closing them.
Okay.
Last 14 months, I'm about 16 closed, including my own home
Wow.
I'm sitting and talking to you in. Right.
Okay.
So, best way I could say for the seller, some positives on it on the sell side. You can advertise your home. It does definitely, when you advertise your home as an assumption, you are sparking interest. Some people know already about them, some don't, but definitely you're driving traffic to your home with the moment you put that out there. Okay. A positive for the seller, you don't have to worry about some of that stuff we were talking about when it comes to chapter 12 and minimum uh,
Right.
property condition requirements or appraisal. You could just kind of get in, get out, because they're only assuming your mortgage. They're not, no one's reworking the loan, meaning they're not coming in asking for termites, things, your termite inspection, radon, appraisal. They don't care the condition of your house. And with that being said, for buyers, you need to be aware of that as well. That's something to kind of, it could potentially sound an alarm if you're a buyer prior to going under contract on an assumption. You need to not only make sure you have eligibility, but also make sure that you're not overpaying for a house, because you won't have that fallback on a lender making sure the home appraises. We often say,
Mm,
hey, no lender is going to give you a penny more than the house is worth, right? However, when it comes to assumptions, all the loan servicers care about is that you're able to cover the actual loan amount, meaning the
yeah.
loan balance, not what the house is selling for. So make sure you have the cash, discuss with your agent or your loan servicer, not your loan servicer, excuse me, the loan servicer.
Hmm.
Determine how you're going to come up with the equity gap, the excess funds between the loan balance and whatever the agreed to sales price is. But just make sure you're not overpaying for that house, because that house, when the deal is done, everybody's paid. That's your responsibility. And that cash that you're pulling out of TSP or that you've saved a very long time for, or you've borrowed, wherever it came from, you just want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and also doing your due diligence and making sure you're doing inspections. Again, no one's going to come and make sure Chapter 12 is followed. If you live in an area for radon, get radon. If you live in an area for termite, get termite. I don't know. Am
Gotcha.
I talking too much, Nathan?
No, not at all. This is all about you. I want to hear these stories. This is good.
Yeah.
Now,
So I
somebody
like
comes into,
assumptions.
yeah. So assumptions. What are the risks then? Because I mean, there's property risk, but what is the risk that you would recommend people be aware of if, let's say, the loan was to be assumed by a non-veteran,
Okay.
somebody without eligibility?
So, what you're going to want to make sure is, as a seller, the buyer, it's not really going to be your responsibility to check. The seller and any agents representing the seller and or title people or attorneys, depending on the state that you're in, you're going to want to make sure that prior to closing, that entitlement has been or will be restored to the seller at closing. Now, there are some sellers out there that are just saying, hey, I want this house done, I don't care if my entitlement stays with the house, but your entitlement is your service earned benefit, right? So you're going to want to make sure prior to getting too deep into the contract that you confirm with the loan servicer that they have in fact checked the COE to confirm that that buyer has enough eligibility. If they don't,
Yeah,
don't sell them that house. Otherwise, your entitlement stays with the house.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that risk, that's a true and real risk because your entitlement stays on that property unless it's replaced. And that entitlement, if that purchaser ends up going underwater or letting it go, your entitlement's tied up with the repossessions, the deed in lieu of foreclosures, all those things as well until it's
And
made
also
correct.
be
So
passed around. It could be passed around
yeah,
through
yep,
divorce. Right. It could,
yes, yes,
right. It could go on to somebody that way. It could go to an heir. If the buyer, once they assume the property, once they pass away, could then be turned over to an heir even.
yep,
So be mindful. And
yeah.
don't just take everyone at face value. No. Uh-uh.
Get some background done. Okay,
Right.
so wh- when you deal in VA loans as much as you do, which is a lot, your
Mm-hmm.
service standards really kind of speak for themselves. I think anybody kind of starts to look you up. If you're in the Memphis, Tennessee area, you need to look up Alexis and figure out why she's so awesome because she's got a really good resume here. But Alexis, one of the greatest things I think we learn is in both positives and negatives. But what was one transaction that just stands out to you memorably for all of its positive, good vibes? Like, what was something that you can just recall a story where it just was a great win for that consumer?
All of them. So I feel like that's the truth. All of them. They're all for me, right? The duty station that we're at, the base that I serve,
Mhm,
it's kind of in middle America. And the Navy
mhm,
is typically along the coastal areas. And coastal areas are typically more expensive. It's
yep,
not uncommon for me to encounter higher ranking people who've maybe been in for a long time but haven't been able to afford to buy at certain duty stations because they're expensive. We're not going to name what duty stations these are, okay? But it's expensive when you're right on the beach, and the Navy, that's where their ships are, on the beach, okay? Um, but allowing service members of all ranks an opportunity to purchase here. So I have a lot of my clients are first time home buyers. Um, and it's rewarding because you get BAH, and your housing allotment can easily pay your mortgage, and they're
mhm,
able to build some wealth. And
hmm,
yeah, so that's that's my success story there. I feel like all of them are really good. My clients, I do a lot of sight unseen.
Mhm.
So it's very another thing is it's rewarding when they come into the house for the first time. They're like, "Yeah, girl, this looks exactly like it did on video."
Nice.
Because I'm pointing out everything bad. We're not in there trying to say,
Mm.
"Look at the soaring ceilings." No, I'm pointing out everything bad about that house, so you're well aware because cosmetic details can quickly accumulate costs. Yeah.
So we end up not a PCS, but my wife and I lived in Oregon when we bought our house in Texas. And I remember the one of the calls to my realtor, like she's going through the video, and
Mhm.
my wife was literally asked her this question. She said, "What does it smell like?" And that was it's a question, right? You walk into a house, you're like, "What does it smell like?" Is that
Also,
it?
what does the neighborhood smell like? Let's talk about that. What's that backyard? Are those neighbors breeding dogs next door and piles of dogs?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are they
So
outside
so
smoking?
okay, see, those are questions we didn't even ask. So tell me,
Mhm.
what are some of the best questions if somebody's PCSing or having to do a sight unseen, and you're
Okay.
like, hey, I make sure to tell them this. What are questions they should be asking of their agent, of their real estate agent, if they're having to go through this?
Okay, well, first off, is typically if you're PCS and you're going to somewhere you're unfamiliar with, you need to
Mhm.
ask your agent, what do I need to know about this state?
Yeah.
Where's state real estate laws? How do disclosures work here? Some states are buyer beware states. Okay. My
Mhm.
state's not, but you need to know certain things up front. So, register sex offenders. How does that work? Does somebody have to disclose that to you? Crime stats. Does that have to be disclosed to you? Flood zones. There's all sorts of things. Here in Tennessee, I always like to tell people we do not have to disclose if anyone passed away inside the house. Grandma
Oh.
in the back bedroom, murder, suicide. No, no one has to tell you anything like that. Okay. And
Oh.
that's going to vary state to state. Right. So definitely you're going to want to ask about those things up front. And that's just good. Whether you're military or not moving, you just want to know if you're moving to a new area, what's something I need to know. And as far as when you're buying sight unseen, pictures is how everybody shops right now for homes, right? I mean, you're in bed, you're going to be looking on your phone, on the third party
Hmm.
apps, you're swiping. It's like online dating, but for real estate. You're going to swipe, you're like, oh, this one looks nice. Let me heart it. Let me go look at it. Understand people catfish with houses just like they catfish in dating world. They're catfishing in real estate world, okay?
Yep.
So when you're talking, interviewing agents, you might want to even do a test run
Mm.
to see how they operate sight unseen. You need to know the bad. The pictures are going to show you the layout, okay? But you need to know what's going on. Zoom in on those baseboards. What does it smell like? Let's see what the roof looks like. Drive around the neighborhood and show me what's going on. Something that
Mm.
I do is I drive around and I zoom in on anything other than an American flag. I don't care if it's a Chicago Bears flag, a state of Tennessee flag, a Marine. You know, the Marines always like to show you where they are. But I'm going to zoom in so that way, political flags, all of that. So that way you can see who's over there. Now, I'm not here giving
Mm.
my opinion, but you're not here. So this is a neighborhood you need to pay attention to, right? This is where you're going to
Yeah.
identify. I also check out the homes behind the house. So while I'm showing the house, you need to peek that phone, put that phone over the fence. What's going on back there? Okay, some weird stuff. How high is your grass? A lot of HOAs, the front is perfectly manicured, but the back is a jungle. Okay, or
Oh
they
yeah.
got some dogs back there, they're breeding, or just some weird stuff. People do
Yeah.
weird stuff in their backyard. No offense if you're one of them, but there's some weird stuff going on in backyards. Okay, I
My
always tell
backyard's
people,
never the weird backyard. That's my neighbors. It's
you
never
know,
me.
you have to realize, I tell people, everyone needs a place to live, and that includes the weirdos. Okay, I'm just saying. So we try to evaluate as much as we can up front. All right. Also, driving around and understanding quality of life within the community. So we're going to talk about how close a home sits to a highway, how
Mm.
close they're sitting to a main road, that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Yes, you want to pass the funk test, but understand noses vary. Okay.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
stinks for me might not stink for you, or what's clean for
Mhm.
me might not be clean for you, right? But you can always, take up carpet. I'm not saying that, you should know if the house stinks, but it's very equally important to understand what's going on around the house, or excuse me, around the neighborhood. Some areas, it might not be a good idea to buy the best looking house on the street,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Okay.
Don't want to be
So
the
yeah,
tops.
those are things to understand, and just pay attention to and
I
ask
like
the
it. Those are
agent.
Those are solid recommendations. Alexis, I appreciate everything you do for our community. You spend a lot of time in that community making sure that it is managed well, the VETA and the membership approval. But you are a wealth of knowledge. Anybody listening to this should probably hop on our YouTube channel and check back some of the some of the Tuesday night lives we did where Alexis was
Yeah.
talking about real estate as well. She always brings a lot of good insights for people to share or to people to learn when she shares.
Mhm.
So Alexis, any last thoughts that you would share with this community? Anything else that you would just make sure people are aware of when they're trying to move forward with their next purchase or selling their house?
Um, don't make a move if it doesn't feel right for you. That's it.
That's
You
good.
know, people always
That is
say, "Hey,
solid.
time the market." I don't know when the best market's gonna be. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I probably wouldn't be selling real estate. I'd be rich somewhere drinking a pina colada on the beach. But here I am. So you have to make a move that's gonna work best for you and
Yeah.
your family. Know your numbers and be open and transparent with the professionals you choose to hire in the transaction. Set expectations, right?
Yeah.
Understand that it's okay to ask questions, no questions too small or too big. Protect yourself.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Perfect. Great takeaway. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with Alexis, you'll find her contact information and other info about her in the show notes. But you'll also find her on the vetavia.com website and in Tennessee. You can get all of her contact information there or even reach out to her in the VetaVA Facebook group. And your website is, what's your website, Alexis?
RealDealMemphis.com.
RealDealMemphis.com.
I'm the
I
real
love it.
deal.
I love it. Yes, you are. And it is, you are fun to talk to. You're a wealth of information. Thank you. I wish you all the best in collecting more Japanese.
Ooh.
What's it called?
Fukagawa porcelain.
Fukagawa. Yes.
Or lips, or lips. We could do lips too.
Or more lips. More lips anyway. Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't catch this in other shows, or if you caught this one, listen all the way through it. Make sure to connect with Alexis if you got questions. She is a wealth of information, as you can tell. And after that, we'll see you in the next show. Thanks for listening. All right, let me hit the end record button. Do, 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 do.